outreach materials that you will be picking up tomorrow. So we'll go ahead and start the recording now.
Recording has started.
All right, so let's go to our agenda. So the training consists of 4 main sections. So we'll pause at the end of each section to discuss any questions you might have. And of course, please feel free to pose your questions anytime in the chat. So on the screen here, you'll see today's agenda. So first, we'll begin with introductions and grant objectives. Next, we'll go over registration rules, outreach messages, and materials. Then we'll cover invoice submission and eligible and ineligible expenses. And finally, we'll cover your outreach reporting requirements. So we have lots to talk about. But before we dive into sort of the specifics of this training, I want to begin with introductions. So let's begin with introducing ourselves, starting with Department of Elections folks attending this training. So I'll begin. My name is Natalia Kuzina. I am Deputy Director for the Department of Elections. And in my role, one of my responsibilities of my role is to support our outreach programs. And that's why I'm here. Now I'll pass it on to Winter Patterson.
Thanks, Natalia. Hi, everybody. Glad you're here. My name is Winter Patterson. I'm the Assistant Deputy Director of the Department of Elections. I'm here to support you all during the course of your grant partnership with us. Let's pass it to Tiff.
Thanks, Winner. Hi, everyone. My name is Tiff, and I am the outreach manager at the Department of Elections. It's so great to see some familiar faces and some new faces today. So I'm here because throughout this grant term, I'll be available to address any outreach-related questions and provide you with official elections outreach materials. I'll also be helping to facilitate any question from the chat for today's training. I'll pass it on to Mayank.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mayank Patel. I am the manager of the Budget, Procurement, and Purchasing Division here at the San Francisco Department of Elections. Me, along with my team, who will be introducing themselves after me, will be assisting you with making sure you get paid for all of the hard work that you guys do for us. I'll pass it over to Kalei.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kalei. Probably have seen me in your inbox quite a few times regarding contracting requests. I'll be assisting Mayank and Christina with processing your invoices or any other invoicing related questions. Now I'll pass it over to my colleague, Christina Chow.
Hi, everybody. My name is Christina Chow, and I, along with Kalei and Mike, are helping you guys set up for this grant and how to get paid. And then who else do we got here? Norma. Pass it on to Norma.
Thank you, Christina. Hello, everyone. My name is Norma Agustin. I work in the administration division, and today I'm helping drive the presentation for this training. I'm passing it back to Natalia.
All right, so that's our elections team. And if I haven't mentioned that already, I'm going to mention it now. So all of us are here to support you in over the course of this grant. So whatever questions you might have, whatever topics that you want to discuss, whether it's an invoice submission or report submission, or you want to brainstorm on your outreach activity, we are here for you. And later on, we will provide all of our contact information to you guys. So you've met all of us. Now we are anxious to meet all of you. On the screen here, we see the names of organizations who have joined us for this grant program. And like I said, we are very, very grateful for this partnership. We have the highest number of partner organizations in any grant program that we've administered lately. So 13 community-based organizations joined us in our outreach efforts for the March election. And we are getting ready to meet all of you. So we'll start with representatives from Asian Pacific American Community Center. If you could just say a few words about yourself and what your organization does, who it serves, and just a few details about yourself and your organization. Do we have any?
Yeah. Oh, hi, maybe we start first. Hi, everybody. My name is Adrian Randa, program assistant at the Asian Pacific American Community Center. And a little bit about ourselves is we provide social services and coordinate community events for our community.
All right, great, thank you. At Center on Juvenile and Criminal Justice.
Hi, Gerald Miller here with the Center on Juvenile and Criminal Justice. Good to be back in the room. Nice seeing the familiar faces, as Tiff said. We provide services to adults and juveniles, both high-end offenders and people who are just looking for a way out of a bad situation. We also provide housing to women with children. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Gerald. George Chan, Chinese Newcomers Service Center.
Hello, everyone. My name is George Chan, the Executive Director of Chinese Newcomer Service Center. We are located in San Francisco, Chinatown. We provide kind of one-stop service to the new immigrant Chinatown residents, from filing tax return to food distribution. So we do offer a lot of service here.
Great, thank you. Nice seeing you back. Coleman Advocates for Children and Youth.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, everyone. My name is Chris. I'm one of the executive directors over at Coleman. A pleasure to be with you all. We've been around for 50 years, doing a lot of education equity work in San Francisco, so we're excited to work with you through the upcoming election.
Great. We're also very grateful for this partnership. So League of Women Voters of San Francisco.
Hi, my name is Danielle Deibler. I work with the League of Women Voters in San Francisco. We do a bunch of stuff usually that focus around election activity, and we are super excited to be working with the Department of Elections this season.
Great, nice meeting you. Lighthouse for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Allison Ferrari at Lighthouse. I'm the Director of Connections, and we serve and work with people who are blind and visually impaired throughout the Bay Area, and we're headquartered at Civic Center.
Great, thank you. Mission Economic Development Agency.
Hi everyone, my name is Krista Alarcon Luna. I am the community organizer here at MEDA, and we are rooted in the Mission District here in San Francisco, and we are working towards advancing a national equity movement by building Latino prosperity, community ownership, and civic power through community real estate, education, workforce development, and a lot more. Very nice to meet everyone.
Great, thank you. All right, National Coalition of 100 Black Women. All right, we'll come back to them a little bit later. One Treasure Island.
Hi, I'm sorry.
Hi,
I was trying to see if our president was going to speak, but
okay.
President Sharon Lee. But I'm Takia Smith, and I'm a member of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, and we advocate on behalf of Black women and young girls.
Great, great. Thank you for being here. All right, One Treasure Island.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rihanna Binkley. I am the Special Projects Coordinator with One Treasure Island. We bring services and resources to the residents of TI.
Great, great. San Francisco Women's Center.
Hi everyone, my name is Kristen Acosta, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator here at the Women's Building. The Women's Building's historically women-led and community-driven space in the Mission District, and we provide essential resources for women and their families so they can recognize their collective power and self-determination.
Great. San Francisco Shanghai Association.
Yes, my name is
Hi,
Hazel.
everyone.
Hi, my name is Hazel. Hi, you can hear me?
We can hear you, Hazel.
Okay. Yes, I'm a Shanghai Association, special to take care the seniors, new immigrants, and the students. They are only monolingual speaking and help them to emerge to the United States.
All right. Good seeing you, Hazel. Um,
Thank you.
Southeast Asian Community Center.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Diana Wong, Executive Director of Southeast Asian Community Center. The COSI is established in 1975. We serve the needs of our community. During the COVID, we are allowed to open in person to have our community. And also, we do the outreach for the census. So we do everything our community need. So I think everything, that's it.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Tenderloin Neighborhood Development Corporation.
Hi, my name is Siu Zheng. I am an outreach coordinator of TNDC. We provide housing service, social service, and community organize.
All right, thank you. All right, so that concludes the list of our grantee partners. It's just so impressive to hear about the populations that you serve, about the clients that served by your organization. Those are the exact populations that we're hoping to reach in this upcoming election cycle with information about the upcoming election, as well as increase registration and voter turnout rates amongst those populations. So again, hopefully through our joint efforts, we'll be able to achieve this goal. And now let's get you ready for your outreach activities. So let's go to the next slide and talk a little bit about the grant goal. All of you are familiar with these goals. This was part of the request for proposals. It's also part of your contracts. But essentially, the primary goal of this grant is to maximize outreach to local communities, less engaged statistically in voting with information about the upcoming election. And all of you have agreed to provide outreach to one or more of these focal populations listed on this slide. So over the next 2 months, while providing outreach under this grant, you must meet all 3 objectives of this grant. So the first objective is to disseminate information about the upcoming March election to members of focus populations, right? So everyone all those populations that you said you're gonna be able to reach through your outreach activities, those are your focus populations as far as the outreach activities are concerned. So the second goal, second objective, is to increase local voter registration rates in at least one of the same populations, right? So we make registration opportunities available to all residents of San Francisco. But some populations will need just a little bit more access to those registration opportunities. And again, like we really hope that you'll be able to serve that as a bridge between this accessible registration opportunities and giving those opportunities to our residents. And the third objective of this grant is to promote civic engagement by recruiting San Franciscans to serve as poll workers. So those are the grant objectives. So now let's talk a little bit about your obligations. So basically, in order to meet these 3 objectives, you'll need to keep these 4 vital obligations in mind. So first, you'll need to conduct all of the outreach activities specified in your final outreach plan that became part of your official grant agreement with the City and County of San Francisco. So this means what this means is that the funding allocated to your organization commensurate your outreach plan, which means that in order to receive the full amount approved, you need to essentially deliver on your entire outreach plan. So please consider reviewing your outreach plans from time to time to ensure that you are on track to deliver outreach as stipulated by your contract. So the second obligation is during your outreach activities, you'll need to utilize only the official outreach messages and materials, either provided or approved by the department. And this is important because it helps us ensure that we provide consistent and accurate messages to the public. So we kindly ask all of you that you don't use any unapproved content. And the third objective is during your outreach activities, because it's one of your goals, you'll be helping people register to vote, as well as return their completed voter registration forms back to the department. So please be sure you're familiar with the voter registration rules and your responsibilities as the registration form circulator. So later in this training, we'll watch a video that will go into much more detail about all those rules and responsibilities for distributing and collecting voter registration forms. And finally, over the course of your outreach, you must remain politically neutral so that all members of the public feel comfortable engaging with you during your outreach activities. And being nonpartisan also means that you cannot support or oppose any current candidate or measure while conducting outreach activities for which your organization is paid through this grant. So it doesn't mean that you or your organization cannot have an opinion, right, on a candidate or a measure, just that you cannot use this grant money to lobby for it. So in other words, grantees can engage in political activities provided they don't use grant monies to do so. So right outside of the grant work, you can do whatever you want to do, right? Like you can support whoever you want to support. But if you are conducting an outreach specifically funded by the grant monies, you have to be 100% neutral. So with all that said, also please be careful to keep non-political and political activities separate and only submit invoices for non-political activities conducted as part of this grant. Any questions so far? Okay, now let's talk about important dates. So here on the screen, you see the important dates of this grant program. So the duration of this grant is just 2 short months. So there is really no time to waste, right? So that's why each of you will need to pick up outreach materials at our office tomorrow. And each of you will be expected to begin outreach no later than Monday, January 8th. So the election cycle is, essentially falls around the holidays. So this was the best schedule that we were able to provide through this grant. But what it also means is that there is sort of no warm up time for you guys, right? You sort of get the material, you attend today's training, you get the materials tomorrow, and you are out in the field starting January 8th. Whether it's in person or digital outreach or whatever you planned on doing in your outreach plans. Like I said, we will be available for any questions that you might have today, tomorrow, and at any time. So if anything is not clear or you need a little bit more support, just reach out to us. But we really, really hope that you get going as early as next Monday, as stipulated in your contracts. So then on February 15th is the next important date. This is the date when you will need to provide a first activity report for all the activities that you've conducted in January, along with the invoices supporting these activities. So essentially, you're going to be submitting a packet specifying, providing all the invoices for all outreach activities conducted during the month of January. And March 5th is the election day. So of course it's the last day of the grant term. And so that means that you'll need to wrap up all of your outreach activities by then. And then following the closure of this grant on March 15th, you'll need to provide the final grantee report along with all the remaining invoices. So it's really important to observe this March 15th deadline. because according to the accounting practices, we are not gonna be able to pay the invoices past March 15th. So it's really, really important, and the purchasing team can go in more detail regarding the invoicing and the deadlines. But it's just really important to keep all these dates in mind, right? So Monday, January 8th is the start of your outreach. February 15th, you're submitting the first activity report with all the activities you've conducted to date and invoices and all the invoices supporting those activities. On March 15th, you're submitting your report for the month of February, plus a few days in March, and all the remaining invoices. So like I said, we'll go over the invoice submission later in this training, as well as we'll review the report template that we prepared that you'll be able to use to report on your activities. So otherwise, are there any questions on what we've covered in this section? All right, great. I see.
I can go ahead. Just questions on like approving of materials, because sometimes we like to make our own flyers. Let's say I make a flyer that's, you know, something to target our residents. Like, who should we send that for approval to?
So you will need to contact Tiff Lee, and then Tiff and I will work together on reviewing your materials.
Okay, and then also like even say we put together like a banner, it's okay to just take a picture and send it to y'all.
Yes, same process. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, we have Allison.
Yeah, hi. Part of the things that we are going to do is I'm assuming that the outreach materials, none of them are produced in Braille, so we were going to translate them into Braille. Do those copies need to be approved?
No, Braille translation will not need to be approved, as long as you're using our content to translate in Braille.
Fantastic. That's our plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Allison. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, I see no other questions. So in that case, I am going to turn it over to Winter.
All right, thank you so much, Natalia. So in the next section, we're going to cover registration drive rules, outreach messages, and materials. So let's go ahead and begin with registration drive rules. As part of your outreach activities, as of course you know, you'll be distributing and collecting the registration forms. So in light of that, we're going to watch a video, we'll watch it right now, explaining the state laws that all registration form circulators need to follow. All right, so go ahead and get that loaded up and enjoy.
The San Francisco Department of Elections has prepared this presentation to help local voter registration drive coordinators and assistant circulators understand their responsibilities and requirements as they relate to registering people to vote. While the information presented in this slideshow is intended to serve as a summary of state legal requirements, it does not have the force of law and is not intended to constitute legal advice. If, at the end of this presentation, you still have questions, please contact the Department of Elections at 415-554-4375 or sfvote@sfgov.org. For additional information, you may also refer to the Guide to Voter Registration Drives prepared by the California Secretary of State. Let's get started by reviewing the 3 documents intended to help you ensure that your voter registration drive is organized in compliance with state law. These documents are the Voter Registration Card Statement of Distribution, the Statement of Circulators' Responsibilities and Liabilities, and the Digest of Penalties for Improper Voter Registration Actions. Drive organizers who plan to request 50 or more registration cards will be required by law to complete the Voter Registration Card Statement of Distribution and submit it to the Department of Elections. Among other information, this form contains sections for organizers' contact information, proposed method of distribution, and a declaration that the organizer promises to distribute all voter registration forms in accordance with state law. Drive organizers who plan to pay drive circulators to help register voters will be required by law to have each circulator complete the form entitled Statement of Circulators' Responsibilities and Liabilities. The drive organizer will need to keep these completed forms on file for at least 3 years. In addition, drive organizers will need to maintain a list of all paid circulators, only pay people who properly complete the circulator section on the voter registration applications. Don't worry, we will go over this near the end of the presentation, and collect and return both fully completed and partially completed registration applications. Unpaid circulators who are volunteering all of their voter registration time are not required to complete the Statement of Circulators' Responsibilities and Liabilities. The last document is the Digest of Penalties for Improper Voter Registration Actions. The department has developed this document to serve as a quick reference regarding voter registration fraud rules. To review the full text of any of these laws, simply copy any of their citations into a web browser. Now, let's get into the details. The when, what, who, and how of voter registration in California. The regular voter registration deadline falls 15 days before each election day. After this date, people can still register to vote conditionally, but must do so in person at City Hall or at any in-person voting site, including any polling place on election day. If you are collecting registration applications, you need to be aware of this deadline because by law, you need to submit registration applications either within 3 business days of receipt or before the deadline, whichever is earlier. San Francisco uses a county-specific voter registration application, which is available in Burmese, Chinese, English, Japanese, Korean, Spanish, Tagalog, Thai, and Vietnamese. The state version is available in these languages as well as in Hindi and Khmer. The main advantage of using the San Francisco voter registration application is that it lists the Department of Elections' address as the return address instead of the Secretary of State's office. This allows for faster receipt and processing of applications. But you can still use the state application to register people in any of California's 58 counties, including San Francisco. In addition to assisting people with registering via a paper application, you can also help register people to vote in any of these languages at registertovote.ca.gov. In order to register to vote in California elections, a person must be 1, a United States citizen, 2, a resident of California, 3, 18 years old or older on election day, 4, not currently serving a state or federal prison term for the conviction of a felony, and 5, not currently found mentally incompetent to vote by a court. As you may be aware, in 2016, San Francisco voters passed Proposition N, which extended voting rights in local school board elections to non-citizen residents of San Francisco who are of legal voting age, not in prison for a felony conviction, and who are the parents, legal guardians, or legally recognized caregivers of children under the age of 19 living in San Francisco. Please note that in order to register to vote in the school board elections, eligible non-citizen residents must use registration applications specifically designed for this group of voters. If anyone asks you about Prop N non-citizen voter registration, please refer them to the Department of Elections. Although by law you must give a registration application to anyone who asks for one, you should not knowingly help register an ineligible person. In fact, if you knowingly help someone commit registration fraud, you may be criminally prosecuted. If you do see indicators of possible fraud, such as non-existent birth date, for example, February 30th, or a fake driver's license number, all driver's license numbers should be a letter followed by 7 numbers, or a fake social security number, for example, all zeros, you may choose to stop assisting the registrant. Now, let's review the different sections that must be completed on a registration application. Completing the first section is very important. Per state and federal law, registrants who fail to check the box indicating they are United States citizens will not be registered. On the registration application, the U.S. citizenship criterion is combined with the requirement to be a current California resident. Although there are some exceptions, for example, certain military and overseas voters can use their former addresses to register to vote in the U.S., to be eligible to vote in California, most registrants must either be living in California now or temporarily living elsewhere with the intention of returning. Students living away from home may register either where they live or where they go to school. In this first section, a registrant must also confirm their age eligibility requirement, that is, being at least 18 years old. Please take note that a 16 or 17-year-old may pre-register to vote, with their registration taking effect on their 18th birthday. In the second section, the registrant must provide their legal name, while the fields for traditional honorifics such as Miss and Mr. are optional. In the third section, the registrant must provide their date of birth as well as their driver's license or state identification number if they have one, or if not, a social security number if they have one. If a registrant has neither of these forms of identification, they still can register to vote, but they will be asked to show some kind of identification in the first federal election in which they vote. In the fourth and fifth sections, the registrant must provide their residential address and a mailing address, respectively. If a person who is unhoused is registering to vote, they can provide a location where they usually stay as their residential address in Section 4. This location can be cross streets or a homeless shelter. A person can also provide a mailing address where the Department of Elections will send all official election materials. A mailing address can be any valid postal address, including a post office box or business address. Anyone who is re-registering in order to, for example, update their political party preference or their name needs to complete Section 6 with their previous registration information. In many elections, only a voter who has requested a one-time vote-by-mail ballot or registered as permanent vote-by-mail voter by checking the Yes box in Section 7 on the registration application will receive a ballot in the mail. However, the law has changed to allow every registered California voter to receive a ballot in the mail for all elections up through the end of 2021. Registrants who expect they will always want to vote by mail should check the Yes box here. In Section 8, the registrant may choose either a political party preference or select no party preference. All fields in Section 9 are optional. In this section, registrants may provide their contact information such as email or telephone number, note language or accessible voting material preferences, or express their interest in serving as a poll worker. The affidavit is essential because it is here that the applicant verifies their eligibility to vote and affirms that they met all eligibility requirements by affixing their signature to the registration application. It is very important to ensure that the registrant completes this section. Any person helping another person fill out a voter registration application needs to complete the circulator section appearing in blue in the bottom right-hand corner of the registration application. This section has duplicate fields for the circulator's name and contact information. This is so the registrant will still have your contact information when you give them their receipt. And by law, you must be sure to give them the receipt after confirming that they have completed all the sections on the application. While we at the Department of Elections appreciate you and your organization's effort to help register voters, we also want to note the seriousness of the activity and highlight a few more facts before we conclude this presentation. 1. You can never charge someone a fee for helping them register to vote. This is unconstitutional. 2. You can also never pay someone for registering to vote. 3. You cannot complete any fields on the registration application without explicit direction from the registrant. 4. You cannot share any registrant's personal information with anyone else. This is strictly confidential. 5. You cannot make photocopies of any voter registration applications or publish them anywhere. 6. You must submit all collected registration applications either within 3 business days of receipt or before the voter registration deadline, whichever is earlier. Be sure to also return all partially completed registration applications. Well, this concludes our presentation. If you have any further questions, want to request voter registration applications, or are interested in other ways to get involved in local elections, such as poll worker recruitment activities, please contact the Department of Elections by visiting our office in City Hall, room 48, or via phone or email at your convenience.
Okay, so that concludes our video on registration rules. So this video, it's on YouTube. So
All right.
it's a
So welcome to training for the Department of Elections 2022 Voter Outreach Grant Partnership.
Sorry about that. It outplayed.
I thought I was like seeing double for a second. So this video, I mean, it's on YouTube, so it's easily accessible for any member of the public who's interested in conducting registration drives to access. But we will also provide it to you via the thumb drive that contains the digital materials when you pick them up. I should also mention that the registration. Ooh, a question. Great. I'll get to that question in a second. But before I do, I should just mention that the registration deadline, it falls 15 days before Election Day per state election law. However, 15 days before Election Day is President's Day, February 19th, which means that the voter registration deadline for this election is actually the day after, February 20th, Tuesday, February 20th. So let me go ahead and take a look at what question we got through the chat. What if the registrant requested a copy of the registration? So great question. With regard to the form itself, the bottom of the form has a tear off portion that serves as a receipt. But in terms of confirming one's own registration information, the best way to do that is to await the voter notification card that we mail out to voters after they register. So it provides like a receipt of the voter's registration. They can always go on our website, sfelections.org/voter portal, and check their registration information there. So you would, if the voter feels comfortable having you return the form on their behalf, you must do that for them. Make sure to get it back to us within the 3 days or by the registration deadline, whatever is earlier. But a voter is also welcome to, begin the registration process with you and, take the registration form with them to either complete later and mail back themselves. So it's going to be up to the individual voter whether they'll return it back to you or take the time to do it themselves. I imagine that the former process will be a little bit more common since you are helping them. Okay, so you will see that on the registration form, there is the option for voters to choose whether or not to be a permanent vote by mail voter or not. The state law has been extended even further, such that all voters registered to vote will receive vote by mail ballots in the mail indefinitely. So the Secretary of State produces voter registration forms for all counties, and it has not updated that particular field yet. So just be aware that field is there, asking whether or not one wants to be a permanent vote by mail voter. But regardless of what they check, if they register before that deadline on February 19th, we will send them a ballot in the mail. So now that we know the rules, let's move on to reviewing the outreach messages and materials. So one of the key resources that you'll have is a video presentation. It provides a comprehensive overview about the upcoming election. We make this video available in English, Spanish, Chinese, and Filipino, and we'll watch the English version together right now.
The San Francisco Department of Elections has prepared this 5-part presentation to provide essential information about the March 5th, 2024 presidential primary election. You will learn about why your vote matters, how to register to vote, informational resources and ballot contests, ways to vote, and how to get more involved. Part 1. Your vote matters. Some people ask, why bother to vote? Here are just a few good reasons. Voting is your opportunity to have a say. By casting your ballot, you are actively participating in deciding the future of our city, state, and country. Voting matters. There are plenty of cases where a small number of votes have decided election outcomes. Let me give you an example. In 1962, the Minnesota governor's race was decided by only 91 votes out of 1.3 million ballots cast, so every vote does really matter. Voting impacts your daily life. All of our lives are affected by government, laws, and the decisions of our elected representatives. By voting, you choose who's making these decisions on your behalf. Lastly, by voting, you are exercising the important right. Why miss out on the opportunity? Part 2. How to register to vote. Registering to vote is the first step in getting ready to participate in an election. So, let's spend a few minutes on how to register. To register to vote, you must be 1. A United States citizen, 2. A current resident of California, 3. At least 18 years old by election day, 4. Not currently serving a prison term, and 5. Not currently found mentally incompetent to vote by a court. For most people, the easiest way to register is to fill out an online form at registertovote.ca.gov. But you can also fill out a paper form. You can get a paper form at any public library, many government offices, or at the Department of Elections office in room 48 of City Hall. For the upcoming March 5th election, the last day to register online or by mail is February 20th. After that date, you can still register to vote, but you must do so in person at a voting site. Filling out a registration form usually takes just a few minutes. You will be asked to provide information such as your name, address, date of birth, and language preference. You will be asked to choose your political party preference. We will come back to this topic later in this presentation. For now, please make a note that your choice in this field will have an impact on your ballot contests in the upcoming presidential primary election. You might be wondering, how can I check my registration information if I'm already registered to vote? It's easy to check. Visit sfelections.org/voter portal or voterstatus.sos.ca.gov or call us at 415-554-4375. In every election, the Department of Elections mails official election materials to all local voters. So, if you change your name or address, please let us know by re-registering to vote. And before counting your ballot, we will also check your signature on the ballot return envelope. So if you change your signature, please re-register to vote to provide a new signature sample. In the next few slides, we will review a few special registration circumstances that apply to certain populations. College student voters. Because the residential address where a voter is registered determines which contests and candidates appear on their ballot, a person must usually register where they live. However, a college student can choose to register in either the county where their school is located or the county where they permanently reside. But of course, not in both. Unhoused voters. A person without a fixed permanent address may use a location where they usually stay, such as cross streets or a homeless shelter, as their residential address when registering. Any such voter may also choose to provide a mailing address to receive mail, such as a post office box or a business address. Then, the Department of Elections can mail a ballot to them. And any San Francisco voter unable to receive a ballot by mail, or who just prefers to vote in person, may do so at the City Hall Voting Center or at their polling place. Voters involved in the justice system. In 2020, voters passed Proposition 17, which amended the California Constitution to allow otherwise eligible residents on parole to register and vote. Now, the only Californians who cannot register to vote due to their past or current involvement in the justice system are those currently serving a prison term for the conviction of a felony. Military and overseas voters. U.S. citizens living abroad but otherwise eligible to vote in San Francisco can register to vote using their last residential address in San Francisco. This is also true for San Franciscans serving in the military and their families. Personal security issues. For California voters in life-threatening situations, the California Secretary of State administers the Safe at Home program. This program can provide a voter with a substitute mailing address for the receipt of official election mail. For more information about this program, please call 877-322-5227. This concludes the second section on voter registration. Becoming an informed voter is the second step in getting ready to participate in an election. In the next section, we will review voter information resources, contests on the March 5th ballot, and the impact of voters' party preference on their ballot. In early February, the Department of Elections will mail voters the San Francisco Voter Information Pamphlet and Sample Ballot, VIP. This nonpartisan guide provides information about local candidates, ballot measures, and voter resources. You can use a sample ballot to mark your choices while doing research and then refer to it when marking the official ballot. All voters will also receive the State Voter Information Guide, or VIG, from the Secretary of State. This guide contains information about state candidates and measures. You will get both guides in the mail unless you opt out in favor of online access. This saves paper and tax dollars. To opt out, visit sfelections.org/go paperless. Now let's take a look at the contests on the March 5th ballot. All San Francisco voters can vote for U.S. Senator, U.S. Representative, State Senator, State Assembly Member, and judges of the Superior Court. All San Francisco voters can also vote on state and local measures. There are 6 qualified political parties in California: the American Independent, Democratic, Green, Libertarian, Peace and Freedom, and Republican parties. These parties will conduct their presidential primaries on March 5th. The Green, Peace and Freedom, and Republican political parties will conduct closed presidential primaries. This means if you want to vote in any of these parties' presidential primary contests, you must be registered with that party. The American Independent, Democratic, and Libertarian political parties will hold modified closed presidential primaries. This means if you want to vote in any of these parties' presidential primary contests, you can either be registered with that party or registered with no party preference. A voter with no party preference can request a party ballot from the American Independent, Democratic, or Libertarian parties by using one of these options. Log into sfelections.org/voter portal, complete application at sfelections.org/ballot requests, call 415-554-4375, text START to 415-941-5495, followed by your name, date of birth, address, and ballot requests. Access your ballot at sfelections.org/access, or request your ballot at a voting site. Anyone can add or change their registered party preference to get a ballot with their preferred party-specific contest. Up through February 20, you can update your party preference by registering to vote online, by mail, or in person. Up through Election Day, March 5th, you can change your party preference at a voting site. Let's take a moment now to test our knowledge of primary ballot rules. Example 1. Pedro is registered to vote with a preference for the Libertarian Party, but wants to vote for a presidential candidate of the Green Party. What should Pedro do? A. Re-register to vote with a preference for the Green Party. B. Re-register with no party preference. Or C. Nothing. The correct answer is A, because the Green Party is holding a closed presidential primary. To vote for a presidential candidate of the Green Party, Pedro must re-register with a preference for the Green Party. Example 2. Anna is registered to vote with a preference for the Republican Party and wants to vote for a presidential candidate of the Democratic Party. What should Anna do? A. Re-register to vote with a preference for the Democratic Party. B. Re-register with no party preference. Or C. Nothing. There are 2 correct answers, A or B. Since the Democratic Party is holding a modified closed presidential primary, Anna could either re-register with the Democratic Party preference or re-register with no party preference and request a ballot with Democratic presidential candidates. Example 3. Lulu is registered with no party preference but wants to vote for a presidential candidate of the Republican Party. What should Lulu do? A. Re-register to vote with a preference for the Democratic Party. B. Re-register to vote with a preference for the Republican Party. Or C. Nothing. The only correct answer is B. The Republican Party is holding a closed presidential primary in March, so if Lulu wants to vote in that party's presidential contest, Lulu must register with a preference for the Republican Party. Starting to get a hand of the primary ballot options rules? Let's try just one more. Example 4. Sanjay is registered with no party preference but wants to vote for presidential candidate of the Democratic Party. What should Sanjay do? A. Re-register to vote with a preference for the Democratic Party. B. Request a ballot with presidential candidates of the Democratic Party. Or C. Nothing. Here we actually have two correct answers, A and B. Since the Democratic Party is holding a modified closed presidential primary, both voters registered with a preference for the Democratic Party and those registered with no party preference can participate in the presidential primary. Voters registered with the Democratic Party will automatically get a ballot of that party's presidential candidates, while voters registered with no party preference must request a ballot with Democratic presidential candidates. Primary ballots, County Central Committee. Now that you know the rules around presidential primaries, let's briefly touch on County Central Committees. These committees conduct fundraising and related activities for a political party. In the March 5th election, some parties will be holding County Central Committee contests and others will not. To vote for a party's County Central Committee members, you must be registered with a preference for that party. But what should you do if you don't know your registered party preference? This one's easy. You can use our online voter portal at sfelections.org/voter portal. Call the department at 415-554-4375 or visit our office in City Hall, room 48. We realize these rules may not be so easy to remember. You can find all this information at sfelections.org/primary and in the voter guides arriving in early February. This concludes the third part of this presentation. Next, let's review ways to vote, which is the final piece of information you need in order to participate in an election. Every San Francisco voter can choose to vote by mail or in person. In early February, we will begin sending vote-by-mail ballot packets to local voters. Each packet will include an official ballot, an instructional insert, a postage-paid return envelope, and an I voted sticker. In early February, we will also open the accessible vote-by-mail AVBM system at sfelections.org/access. This online portal provides screen-readable ballots and is compatible with personal assistive devices. Any local voter can get a ballot through the system by entering their house number, zip code, and date of birth. The voter can then mark, print, and return their ballot. Whether you use a mailed ballot or download and print one, you must return it using an envelope. You can return the envelope by mail, by hand delivery to an official drop box, or by hand delivery to an in-person voting location. No matter what return method you choose, be sure to return your ballot on time. If you decide to return a ballot by mail, please remember that the return envelope must be postmarked by March 5th. If you wait until Election Day to mail your ballot, be sure to check the mail pickup times. If you have missed the last Election Day pickup, do not use that mailbox because your ballot will be postmarked after Election Day and will not be counted. Instead, find a USPS mailbox with a later pickup at usps.com/locator or return your ballot in person. You can also hand deliver your ballot envelope to the City Hall Voting Center or any official ballot drop box starting February 5th or to a polling place on Election Day. In this election, you can choose from 37 official ballot drop boxes located throughout the city, all open 24/7. For box locations, go to sfelections.org/ballot drop-off. Did you know you can track the status of your ballot from when it is assembled and mailed all the way up until it is counted? You can go to sfelections.org/voter portal, call the department at 415-554-4375, or sign up for notifications at where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov. If you do not receive a ballot packet in the mail, or you damage the one you receive, you can get a replacement by contacting the department or going to sfelections.org/voter portal. We'll explain how and where to vote in person in just a moment. Let's take a moment to review what we have learned about voting by mail. Approximately 1 month before Election Day, all registered voters will receive ballot packets in the mail, and any voter can access the accessible vote by mail system at sfelections.org/access. For most voters, the easiest way to return their ballot will be to use the enclosed postage-paid ballot return envelope. Finally, to be counted, vote by mail ballots must be returned by Election Day, and, if returned by mail, also postmarked on Election Day. Now let's review in-person voting options. Any eligible San Francisco resident can register to vote, get or drop off a ballot, or cast a paper, touchscreen, or audio ballot at City Hall. In this election, the City Hall Voting Center will be open February 5th to March 4th, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., except February 19th. February 24th to the 25th and March 2nd to the 3rd, Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. March 5th, Tuesday, Election Day, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And here's a useful tip. Early on, there's no line at the City Hall Voting Center. On Election Day, March 5th, all 501 polling places will be open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Any eligible San Francisco resident can register to vote, get or drop off a ballot, or cast a paper, touchscreen, or audio ballot at their polling place. To find your assigned polling place, go to sfelections.org/myvotinglocation. Contact us or check the back cover of your voter information pamphlet mailed out in February. Translated ballots and materials are available at all voting locations. Voters may request a bilingual ballot in English in either Chinese, Spanish, or Filipino and requested translated copies of the voter information pamphlet. Voters may also request facsimile ballots in Burmese, Japanese, Korean, Thai, or Vietnamese to reference when marking the official ballot. In addition, at most locations, the department will provide in-person bilingual assistance in many commonly spoken languages. At all locations, phone translation will also be available in hundreds of additional languages. To request your ballot and other election materials in Chinese, Spanish, or Filipino, in addition to English, visit sfelections.org/voter portal. Many accessibility resources will be available at all in-person voting locations. Any voter may choose to mark a touchscreen or audio format ballot using a ballot marking device or use accessible voting tools, such as page magnifier, signature guide, or pen grip. Any voter can also request assistance from a poll worker or curbside voting service. This service allows voters who cannot come inside a voting facility to vote outside. Remember, poll workers and Department of Elections staff are always available to help. To recap, all San Francisco voters can choose to mark and return their vote by mail ballot, download, mark, print, and return an accessible vote by mail ballot, vote at the City Hall Voting Center, or vote at their neighborhood polling place. This concludes the fourth part of this presentation. Next, we will wrap up with a short section on other ways for the public to get involved with elections. In every election, we hire over 2,000 poll workers, many bilingual, to staff the city's 501 polling places. You can help your community and earn up to $295 by serving as a poll worker on Election Day. To apply, go to sfelections.org/PWA or call 415-554-4395. If you are interested in city employment, including any open Department of Elections positions, please visit sfgov.org/jobs or contact us. You can observe election processes such as ballot extraction and tabulation either in person or remotely. To view a calendar of observable processes, go to sfelections.org/observe or call 415-554-4375. You can join an advisory committee to have a say in how elections are conducted. Go to sf.gov/advisory-committees to sign up. This concludes our presentation. We hope you found it informative. You can learn more about the topics covered today by visiting sfelections.org. If you have questions or need help, please do not hesitate to call our outreach team at 415-554-5685 or write to sfoutreach@sfgov.org. And please remember, your vote goes a long way. Cast your ballot by Election Day.
Okay, so that concludes the March 5th election outreach presentation. Does anybody have any questions about this video or the video before that we just saw? Okay. Feel free to share them in the chat or raise your hand if you do. We realize that it's a lot of information. And I'm going to next just kind of go over the key messages, some of them which we've already gone over. But these are the key messages that you'll need to incorporate into your outreach. So these include ways to register to vote, and you've seen this already. The options that voters have is to go online at registertovote.ca.gov or to fill out this paper registration form. Again, it's really important. It's really important for all grantee organizations to comply with all state registration laws. And one of these I just highlight again on the screen for all of you. By law, you must return the registration forms to us within 3 days of receipt. So you mustn't hold on to them for any period of time longer than 3 days. If you do happen to collect registration forms on election day, on February 20th, the voter registration deadline, please, you must get those back to us as soon as possible. That day, in fact. Okay, so I will just recap the impact of party preference on ballot contests. So did everybody get those quiz questions right in the video we just watched? You know, Pedro and Anna and Sanjay. Hopefully, you know, that this resource provides a way for you to sort of, you know, test your own knowledge and make sure that folks in your organization do as well. We're going to be sharing the same kind of information with our thousands of poll workers that we'll recruit, so that every single person involved with elections, whether it's you as grantee organizations or us as employees or our poll workers, have these rules down. So for the election, there's 10 versions of the ballot with different partisan contests. So on the left hand, I summarized there are 6 versions of the ballot for voters registered with a qualified party. And then on the right side, there's 4 different versions of the ballot for voters without a party preference. These include the default ballot that does not contain a presidential primary contest, along with the versions of the ballot that no party preference voters can request. These include the ballots that contain the presidential primary contests for the American Independent, Democratic, or Libertarian parties. Okay. So let's make sure that we understand the ballot request methods for no party preference voters. So there's several ways that voters can submit their request to us, and really whatever is the most convenient for the voter is probably going to be the best thing that they do. So they can log into sfelections.org/voter portal and just submit their request online. They can text us, which is a new service that we are providing this election. They can text START to our dedicated text line, and they'll actually be able to interact with one of our staff members who will be able to process their request via text. They can complete a paper application, and this is something I just want to draw a little bit more attention than what the video we just watched went over. So these paper applications, they're just a simple form that a voter can fill out to choose their preferred ballot, sign it, and return it back to us. We're going to give you these forms when you come pick up your materials. And what we suggest doing is that when you're helping voters register to vote out in the field at your events, take a review of the registration form to see if a voter has registered with no party preference, and then offer this paper application to them that they can use to request a partisan ballot. So they fill out their registration form, get all registered. But given how close we are to the election already, it's a great idea, and we please ask you to also collect their request for a partisan ballot as well. I think I have a picture of that in this slide. So then the other methods that voters can use, they can access their ballot at sfelections.org/access using our accessible vote by mail system. They can call us. and they can request your ballot at a voting site. Okay, so universal mail ballots. Universal mail is here to stay. Voters will get their ballot packets in early February, and anyone who registers to vote by February 20th, which is the registration deadline for this election, should expect to receive a vote by mail packet sent to them. Our handy dandy voter portal on sfelections.org/voter portal, you'll see mentioned a couple times throughout this training because it allows voters to do quite a lot. And one of the things they can do is actually track their ballot, track the day it was printed, prepared, stuck in an envelope, mailed out to the voter. And then after the voter returns their ballot, they're welcome to use our voter portal to make sure that their ballot was received, processed, and counted. Okay, moving on. We know there's still in-person voting options, and many voters still prefer to vote in person, which they're welcome to do, even if they got their vote by mail ballot in the mail. So the City Hall Voting Center opens on February 5th, which is just a little over a month away, I believe, so very soon actually. And then on Monday through Friday, we're going to be open 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. With the exception of that President's Day holiday on February 19th, we will be closed in observance of President's Day. City Hall Voting Center also opens to voters during the weekends before Election Day. So the 2 weekends before Election Day will be open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. Come by, register to vote, cast your ballot, get a ballot, whatever a voter might need to accomplish. They can do it here at City Hall. Those hours for Saturday and Sunday are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then Election Day is March 5th, of course. We will be open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the City Hall Voting Center, which is the same hours as polling places, which you'll see on the right side of the screen. So all 501 polling places will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Some voters may be curious what their assigned polling place is, and in order to find out, they can actually look at the back cover of our voter information pamphlet. They can use our voter portal once again to find that information. And don't you love our new I voted sticker? And I hope we sure do. And you can see how it's featured prominently on the front of our voter information pamphlet there. So we're really excited to mail out those materials to voters in a few weeks. And I'm going to move on to accessible tools and services, of course. So we want to provide our access to elections for all residents in the city. And so as an outreach partner, you'll also need to explain what resources and services we have that help voters cast their vote privately and independently. So some of these resources include voter information pamphlets in large print, audio, and National Library cartridge formats, accessible voting equipment, tools, and entryways at in-person voting locations. We have our accessible vote by mail system. Any voter can access the system if they want to mark their ballot online. But this system, it's screen readable. It's compatible with assistive devices. So it's a great accessible resource that we offer. Keep in mind that voters who do access their ballot via this system, they'll need to print their ballot out and return it in an envelope. And then finally listed here, we have the provision of services such as curbside voting. We have an emergency ballot delivery program for voters who seek assistance receiving or getting their ballot returned. We have a team of dedicated staff here at the Department of Elections who will conduct these deliveries during the voting period so that we can make sure that everybody who wants a ballot is able to vote. That takes me to bilingual resources and assistance. And as an outreach partner, you'll need to incorporate translated materials into your outreach, and not just translated materials, but information on how voters can access these translated resources. Keep in mind that any voter can add a language preference to their voter record when registering to vote. And if they don't fill it out on the registration form, their language preference, that is, they can just reach out to us to add a language preference to their record or use our online tool. We offer bilingual assistance in Chinese, Spanish, and Filipino, and interpreting services in over 200 languages. As we've covered, voter information pamphlets, the official ballot, and other materials, they're all made available in Chinese, Spanish, and Filipino. We also offer facsimile ballots that voters can use to reference when marking the official ballot. These facsimile ballots are available in Burmese, Japanese, Korean, Thai, and Vietnamese. In addition to these written materials, we also provide in-person assistance in these languages, as well as other commonly spoken languages in San Francisco. Okay, so I am going to now turn it over to Tiff, who's going to discuss some of the materials that you'll be picking up that will help you disseminate the messages that I just went over. I'll throw out the chance to ask a question right now, though, if anybody wants to slip in a question. Seeing no questions, Tiff, I'm going to pass it over to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Winner. Hi again, I'm Tiff. And in this section, we're going to go over some outreach materials because to help you facilitate your outreach plan, we have prepared a lot of resources to give you during your material pickup tomorrow. So thank you so much in advance for picking up the materials and starting to use them to educate the community as the grant begin next Monday. So I'm going to give a quick walkthrough of all the materials that you'll be picking up, which will help you to reach the goal of the three main objectives of grant. So first, as you see on screen, on the left-hand side, you will receive a March 5th, 2024 election poster featuring the city's new I Voted sticker. This poster is available in English, Chinese, Spanish, and Filipino. It contains a QR code to the department's online presidential primary toolkit, which provides a lot of information about the upcoming election. In the middle, you'll see that this is actually a banner, a retractable banner, which you will be picking up in a carrying bag. This banner is useful to attract and engage attendees of outreach events. Aside from utilizing this in your outreach events, we also encourage you to place this banner in your hallway or lobby in your building to share this information with your clients. On the right-hand side, you see that it's our election brochure. This trifold brochure covers much of the information that we watched earlier in the presentation, and it's also available in English, Chinese, Spanish, and Filipino. Speaking of the presentation that we just watched, you will also be receiving a thumb drive containing the presentation in the four language I just mentioned in video and PowerPoint format. Next, to meet your second outreach objective, to increase voter registration and participation among focused population, you will receive paper and digital map showing areas of the city with lower per capita populations of registered voters. So as you can see on screen, there's a map which you'll be receiving during your material pickup as well. You see that precinct with registration rate below 40% and 50%, shaded blue and green respectively. And ought to be the focus of where you scheduled your outreach activities. In other words, please use this map in tandem with your outreach plan to guide your activities and facilitate voter registration drive. On top of the material that I just mentioned, you will also receive a tote bag of 315 voter registration card in different languages. Each registration card has a unique number that is connected to your organization. So as part of our grant partnership, we will reveal the number of registration forms and that have been returned by your organization and will be providing follow-up data. As discussed earlier by Winter, you'll also receive a set of 50 paper ballot request application form for no party preference voter. So as you can see on screen, on the left-hand side, it's actually a blown up of what you see on the voter registration form. So if you see that a voter or potential voter select no party or none on field 8 of their voter registration card, please ensure that they fill out a ballot request form. If they wish to request a ballot with presidential candidates from parties that allow crossover voting. So please return the complete form along with the voter registration card to us. Again, by law, it's required for you to return forms back to us within 3 days. So we appreciate you following that rule. If the individual you're interacting with are planning to mail their registration card along with these forms, you can instruct them to place the form inside the voter registration card, which is already posted paid, and then they can seal it with a tape before returning to us. Any questions before we move forward? If not, I will continue with poll workers materials, which will
Oh,
help
this
you.
is Allison. Sorry, I do have a question.
Sorry, I didn't see your hand. My bad. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I raised it kind of late. So with our population, with the blind population, we want to do more of a digital outreach so that people have more of a chance to interact themselves. So we were doing calling and then distributing the forms digitally. Is there anything different that we should be doing? It sounds like you're maybe collecting data on who we're contacting and who we're helping complete the forms with. So I guess I'm just curious if there's a different process that we should be following or be mindful of for any digital voter registration form completion.
Other folks feel free to hop on. But for us, it's just, for the voter registration form, the voter registration card serial number allows us to track the interaction. We also wanted to make sure it's convenient for people to register to vote. So they can also register online, but the number that, of the return form will help us gauge the efforts and see if there's anything else that we can improve on. So, you can still share the link registertovote.ca.gov for them to register online. But, we'll just be tracking the paper registration form because, we can't do that.
Okay, so I guess sorry if this is too specific and I can take it offline
no
if
worries.
needed, but our application was mostly targeting people by phone because that's what our community needs and wants right now. So should we be completing the paper forms over the phone with them, or should we do the digital California registration form?
You cannot complete the form for them. The reason why is because they'll have to sign the form themselves. So if it's a phone interaction, then you will be sharing the link, the online registration link with them, which is registertovote.ca.gov, and that they can register to vote themselves.
Okay, so we'll be assisting with that because a lot of people don't have the technology to be able to register. So we're walking through the process, which would be the same as if it's in person, I guess, except the signature. But we'll be keeping track of data of who is registering online through that method. But maybe I'll just take this offline because I don't know if anyone else is planning on doing it this way.
Sure. Happy to hop on a call with you or, start off an email to kind of share some tips and, of how to register online after this training.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Any other questions? If not, poll workers materials. So that's on to your third grand objective, is to recruit poll workers. So for every election, we recruit over 2,000 poll workers to serve voters on election day. Poll worker make up to $295 for the one-day service on election day. This service is a fulfilling way to gain experience and give back to the community. And I don't want you just to take my word for it, because here are a few quotes from the member of our poll worker team, which I'd like to read a few out loud to share with you. Once you see the process and how important it is, you gain a new respect for the right to vote, and I would encourage anyone to have that experience. There is a sense of trust. Voters believe in us. They know that their vote will be protected. I really like the sense of going out there and doing something for the community. Applying to be a poll worker is really easy. It just takes a few minutes. We will provide you with paper application. Behind that application form, there's also a QR code. So if folks wanted to apply for a poll worker online, they can scan that QR code. Just note that these forms are unique per organization and the QR code as well. So we'll be able to also track your efforts in assisting with folks to apply to be a poll worker. They can also go to our website as well to learn more about poll worker opportunity and to apply online. Lastly, I'm going to conclude with a reminder of the materials pickup tomorrow. Again, outreach must begin starting next Monday, January 8th. So it's really important for you to pick up materials before then. If there are any changes, feel free to email me, which my contact info it's already in the chat. When picking up the materials, please report to our office located in City Hall, ground floor, room 48. And as for myself, Tiff, when you're at the front desk, our team will be expecting you. You'll be picking up a total of approximately 20 pounds worth of materials, so I do highly suggest to bring a cart or extra pair of hands to help. While we have prepared an initial set of materials based on your plans and goals you share in your proposal, we realize some of you might need additional materials to distribute during the course of your outreach activities. So please be mindful, we do have to order these materials on demand. So we like to ask you to place your additional material request 2 weeks before your pickup date. I'd like to mention that we also have a lot of resources on our website in various languages, sfelections.org, where you can explore the outreach page on our website to see what's other information it's available for your outreach. So any question? I see that we have a
Yeah,
question. Oh, go ahead, please.
yeah, Tiff, I
Jared.
just had,
Mhm.
yeah. Are there citizenship requirements for poll workers, or how does that work, actually?
So for poll workers, as long as they have a proof of residency in here, we welcome them. They don't even have to live in San Francisco. So as long as they're willing to serve on election day, it's quite early in the morning. So as long as they can be here, we welcome them. I hope that answered your question.
Thank
Great. Um, I see two questions on the chat, Diana. So for the presentation, after my portion, I will send a link in the chat, which our presentation is also uploaded on YouTube and in English, Chinese, Spanish, and Filipino. So I'll send you that link. You'll also find the presentation on your thumb drive, which you'll be picking up tomorrow. The next question I see is that when's the last day to register to become a poll worker? So great question. As soon as possible, to be honest. And there's many reasons why they should do it sooner. And I like to let them know, the sooner they apply, the more polling places are there for them to pick. Potentially they can also serve with someone that they wanted to serve with, like with a group. or closer to home? So the answer is as soon as possible. I know that our poll worker team is aiming for the efforts to be concluded by the week of February 19-ish. So that's kind of like a soft deadline that I like to share. But whenever you see someone that they're interested, I would just encourage you to have them apply as soon as possible so that our team can work with them to secure the polling place that they will be serving at. I hope that answered your question. Right? Thank you. Thank you. Any additional question? If not, again, my contact information is on the chat. I will also share my phone number there so that you can reach me if you prefer that way. And otherwise, I'm excited to see y'all at tomorrow's pickup. And that now I'm going to turn it over to Mayang. Jared, I still see your hands up. Do you have another question? No? Okay, sounds good. Well, then I'm going to turn it over to Mayang to discuss invoice. Take it away.
Fantastic. Well, that's a lot of information right there. So we have the home stretch to go now. So let's talk about money and how we can get you paid. So let's start off by reviewing all aspects of invoicing as well as eligible and ineligible expenses. So on this slide, you'll see our invoicing schedule. So based off our grant agreements, your outreach activity should start on Monday, January 8th, just like Tiff said, and we'll need to wrap up by March 5th, 2024, which is Election Day. With this period, there will be two deadlines for the invoicing submissions. The first set of invoices for outreach activities conducted in the month of January will be due on February 15th. The second and final set of invoices for all outreach activities conducted in February and the remainder of March will be due on March 15th. So the date to remember is the 15th of the month. Please note expenses occurred after the 5th, after Election Day, won't be eligible for reimbursement. You will have until March 15th to compile and submit your final set of invoices. Okay. With these deadlines in mind, let's focus on what type of expenses are eligible and can be reimbursed. Already paid expenses when you're creating your invoice only include costs that you've already paid. If you haven't paid something yet, it can't be invoiced. Direct related costs, including expenses that are directly connected to the outreach work that you're doing. This means costs like renting a venue for the event or buying material for the project. Operating expenses. You can include regular operational costs like salaries and office supplies, but remember, large purchases over $5,000, such as expensive equipment, aren't covered. Budget compliance. Ensure that all expenses align with the proposed budget in Appendix B, which we have all signed and reviewed now, and are especially for outreach activities in San Francisco. Please be sure to review Appendix B of your contract thoroughly if you have any questions. Okay, next we'll go over some examples of these eligible expenses. Let's start with compensation. This includes the net salaries and wages for those directly involved in the project, which most of all our grantees have this on their Appendix B. So this includes staff, researchers, and consultants. One thing that we do ask is to make sure you redact any private information like social security numbers or any other confidential information. Next, equipment rentals. This includes rentals or equipment like audiovisual gear, tents, tables, chairs for events, things like that. Your equipment rental agreement should display the rented items, the rental period, the cost per unit, the total cost, and the dates of the rental. Next, let's consider the smaller yet essential items that you may need for your project's daily operations. Office supplies and materials like stationery, paper, printing costs for project-related flyers, posters are also reimbursable. Please make sure your receipts detail these purchases. Executing your outreach plans might involve a lot of advertising and publicity. This could be expenses for media placements, public relation efforts, or other forms of advertisement that align with your grant's objective. Invoicing should specify these services availed, their cost, the total amount due, and the date of the invoice. Next, participating in events will likely be a significant part of your outreach efforts. If you're attending events or conferences to promote your project, these costs are generally reimbursable. Keep your receipts or tickets detailing the event name, date, and registration costs. Next, technology. Technology also plays a critical role in today's projects. Let's explore what technological expenses are eligible for reimbursement. Expenses like software tools and technology platforms like website builders or email marketing tools are eligible. The reimbursement of these will be based on the grant's agreement duration. Invoicing should detail the software, the technology platform subscribed to, the subscription period, the cost of the subscription, and the date of the invoice or receipt. Keeping detailed and accurate records of all eligible expenses is essential, and it's important to be thorough in this process, as any oversight or mistake will result in some costs not being reimbursed or just a delay in reimbursement. So now let's switch gears and discuss the expenses that will not be reimbursed under the terms of the grant agreement. Personal or business-related costs. To be more specific, meals, catering services, travel fares, accommodation costs, expenses related to fundraising or education aren't considered eligible. This rule applies to everyday items like food, water, as well as travel costs like Uber, Lyft, public transportation tickets, used for attending events. Additionally, hotel stays aren't covered. Capital assets or improvements, money spent on large long-term investments or upgrades aren't reimbursable. Costs disallowed by other grants. So if any other cost is not permitted under the rules of any federal or state grant that's contributing to your funds, it is not reimbursable here either. In this grant, there are no federal and state portions, so it doesn't apply. Late fees or interest. If you've been charged a penalty or a late fee or interest due on a late payment, these costs won't be covered as well. The city's policy is that we will not pay for any late fees, penalties, etc. So let's say that you're paying an invoice and you are late with a payment and the invoice contains a $50 late charge. Sadly, we won't be able to reimburse you for that. Unpaid taxes or withholding from wages. Any taxes or withholding from wages that haven't been paid during the agreement term aren't reimbursable. This includes things like employer taxes, insurance, or flexible spending accounts. Remember, you can only seek reimbursement for costs that have happened in the past. The list continues with electronic and tech purchase expenses for buying or leasing items like computers or phones are not covered. Office space for facility costs. These include rental fees, utilities, and maintenance costs. Subcontracting services. Costs paid to subcontractors are not reimbursable. Transport rentals. Costs for renting transportation aren't covered. Training costs. Training provided by the Department of Elections is not reimbursable. Reporting costs. Any costs for compiling and submitting the report are not reimbursable. Remember, if you're unsure on whether an expense is reimbursable or not, the best thing to do is to review the contract. Appendix A does a pretty good job of detailing out which items are reimbursable, and as well as which items are not reimbursable. And last but not the least, just gift cards are also not reimbursable. If you have any questions on anything before you incur the charge, feel free to contact us. We will be happily be available to answer any of your questions. It's a good thing to always check before you spend, and then you can't be reimbursed. We would not like to be in that situation. We would feel bad for you as well. So it's always good to double check. When submitting your invoices, you must include 3 items. So a funding request cover sheet, which is Appendix C of the contract, an itemized list of expenses, which is Appendix C, Schedule 1, and any supporting documentation for expenses as outlined in Scheduled 1. For example, this might include your original payroll data, your payroll information, invoices paid to the vendors or subcontractors, or payments for the facility rentals. Essentially, we require a copy of the original documents that are supporting your claims for the invoice. Be sure to familiarize yourself with Appendix C so you know what to include in your invoices, and let us know if you have any questions. If an invoice is incomplete or contains ineligible items, it will be returned for your revision. Under ordinary circumstances, you can send these electronic invoices to reg.inv@sfgov.org. And please also CC me, Mayank Patel, mayank.patel@sfgov.org. In any urgent situation, you can also hand deliver it to us if you want to visit us in person here at City Hall in room 48. Once your invoice is submitted, let's look at how and when you can expect payment. Upon approval, we can process payments within about 2 weeks. The timing and method depends on the supplier profile with the city. Payments will be made using electronic fund transfer following the net 30 payment terms. Okay, so let's take a quick break and answer any questions. Double check the chat. No questions, wow. Well, if you do not have a question, you can always contact me directly. We will be available. Hazel, go ahead.
Yes, because you say social security number. When I write down the invoice number to claim the name, and I need to write down the social security number, each one.
We actually want you to hide the social security number before sending it to us. We do not want to know the social security numbers of your employees, basically.
Yeah, for W-9 already will show up. So I don't need to write down the social security number for you. Just write down the name and the check.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Any other questions?
Patel, right? Your name is called Mayank Patel.
Mayank Patel. Yes,
Patel.
Mayank Patel.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No more.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Kalei has written down my email address in the chat, so feel free to contact me if you have any questions. And now I'll turn it over to Natalia to discuss reporting process.
All right. Thank you, Mayank. This is the last section of today's training. So stay with us for just a little longer. Hopefully we'll get through this last section in the next 15 minutes. So along with your invoices, you must submit reports with information about all outreach activities that you conduct over the course of the first and second reporting period. So the submission of reports is aligned with the schedule for submitting invoices. So as we mentioned already, your first activity report is due on February 15th, and the second one is due on March 15th. Along with those reports, you'll be submitting the invoices supporting all the activities that you described in your activity reports. So this schedule really helps us during a monthly auditing of your invoices and outreach activities that we must do as part of any grant administration as required under the city's grant administration practices. So now let's talk about the report template. In order to streamline the reporting and not having you come up with your own template and how to report on all the activities that you've completed, we are going to be providing you with the report template. It will also be saved to the thumb drive that you will be picking up along with your materials. So here on the screen, you see this template. It contains two sections. The first section is activity details, and the second section is evaluation section. So the activities data is broken down into 4 parts, A through D. So in part A, you'll need to provide the date, location, topics, the number of attendees for each in-person outreach event or registration event conducted, right? You have this convenient table there, and so you just fill in the table. So in part B, you'll need to provide similar information, but for your digital messaging, right? So same thing, date, method, topics, number of recipients of each digital messaging. In part C, this is where you will provide the type of material, number of those materials, and date and place of distribution of materials, right? In part D, you'll need to provide a brief description of what you have planned for the upcoming months, right? And that would be really, really important because at the end of the reporting period, which is February 15th, we won't have much time left in this grant. So in order to assess what we expect to accomplish as far as our outreach activities, we truly need to understand when you submit your first activity report, what you're planning on doing in February, right? Because February is going to be a very, very important month as far as the outreach is concerned. So election will be just a month away, and people are going to start the public, members of the public will start paying more attention to the election, right? So they'll be more engaged, there'll be more questions, there'll be more interest, and we all really need to be in the field at that time, right? So even if you have a somewhat slower start in January, you really, 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 and I can't stress it enough, need to ramp up all of your outreach activities in February. Because again, this is the months where you can capture probably the most attention of your clients. And I'm sharing this with you just based on our experience and what we are seeing in the registration roll fluctuation, right? So the registration rates always go up a month or 2 months before the election. So, and that shows us that's the time frame before any election when people pay the most attention to the election. So again, February is going to be really, really important for you. So therefore, we just really want to make sure that you've planned everything out for February. Okay, so for the evaluation section. So for part A, you'll need to describe the 3 most successful aspects of your strategies thus far. We also excited to learn from your expertise and from your experiences in the field. And you know, hoping to learn from you about certain strategies that worked really well for you that we might consider implementing as part of our outreach, right? So if you're reaching specific populations through a certain strategy and you find it effective, given that it's a hard to reach population, we would want to know about that. Because we, again, like our common goal, the goal for all of us, is to reach hard to reach and vulnerable populations of the city with election messaging. So really, really hoping that you would be able to share the most successful aspects of your strategies in your report. So in part B, you'll explain the 3 most challenging aspects of your strategies. And this is where we're gonna try to help you, right? Again, like if you share with us some kind of a challenge that you experience during your outreach events, we'll get in touch with you and we'll try to work through that challenge with you so that instead of stalling the outreach activities, right, we can help you ramp them up. So again, like we want to support you and we don't want for any of the challenges that you might experience to be an obstacle in delivering a successful outreach as we're expecting from all of you. So in part C, you may share any notes you might have for the department. So it's essentially open field and you can say whatever you want to say in that field for us. you think that might be helpful for us to know. So also along with your monthly report, we encourage you to attach photos of your events and screenshots of your digital outreach communications, such as social media posts, email blasts, or whatever you might do. And this will make it easier for us to audit your invoices and outreach activities, essentially. So next slide. So as noted on the report itself, please email your completed reports to MyInc, to the email address shown on the slide. Before we wrap up, does anyone have any questions on what we've covered in this section or in any other sections of this training?
Hi, yes, I have a question. I put it in the chat. And are there any digital materials available for distribution that you'll forward to us?
Yes, absolutely. We have a wealth of information on our outreach page on our website. So we'll certainly forward a link to that page. And we can also highlight the key digital resources that we've developed for this election, including our Get Ready for the March Election Toolkit, the voter portal, and many other outreach brochures and flyers. So yes, so the short answer is we have a lot of outreach digital materials.
Okay.
And thank you for that question.
Mhm.
All right. Any other questions?
I have shared that link to the outreach page in the chat for y'all to check out. It will also be included on the thumb drive as well, the digital materials.
Tiff, can you also share a link to the primary page that's accessible from the home
Yeah.
page? Okay.
I will do.
Any other questions? I don't see any questions. All right, then let's go into the final reminders. All right. Final reminders. So begin your outreach activities on Monday, January 8th. Please, please, please. We don't have much time in this grant. And of course, be prepared to complete all of your activities by March 5th, which is the end of this grant. As we already talked about, use official department outreach materials and messaging. If you create or want to create any new materials or messaging, please reach out to Tiff, and then we'll certainly work with you on making sure those materials and messaging are still consistent with the messages of this department. Deliver only non-partisan information during your outreach activities, and we're here to support you. And again, like I can't highlight this more than I've already highlighted in this training. If you have any questions, please reach out. If we can help you get your outreach going, please reach out. We have all a common interest in making these outreach partnerships as successful as possible, and therefore just don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything from us, or if we can support you in any way to get you going and just be successful. So here on the slide you have the contact information for all of us. Tiff would be your main point of contact for any outreach materials, and I'll work with her to get the answers to you. And of course, MyInc is the monies guy. So any questions about the invoices or reimbursable and non-reimbursable activities, please direct them to him. And of course, you can use our general outreach email. But again, like the easiest way and the quickest way to get a hold of us is to email Tiff or MyInc. And that is it for today, unless someone has any questions.
I see a hand from Kristen.
Uh-huh. Go ahead, Kristen.
Yes, I had filled out the form. You all had sent a form for potential collaborations for events, and I had filled it out for requests for Facebook Lives and for support on an event. Do you know when the timeline would be to hear back from you all?
So you submit a, sorry, go ahead, Natalia.
Go ahead, Tiff.
Oh, is this through the outreach event request form?
Yes, the one that you all had sent out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Thank you for getting back to us. So our team has been, because there's like quite a few requests, so we've been getting back to them, prioritizing the events that are happening sooner rather than later. So you'll be hearing back from our team by early next week.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Hazel.
Hazel?
Yes, I have one question. Tomorrow I will pick up all the materials, but the mandatory reporting requirement, those forms is inside or your will email to me.
So this report template will be on a thumb drive that you'll pick up. So it will be saved to thumb drive.
Oh, so I can pick up tomorrow, right?
Yes, right.
Mandatory reporting requirement, those forms.
Yes.
Okay, I will pick up.
They'll be saved in digital format to your thumb drive.
Okay, so I need to remind them or just pick up, then I can leave. They are inside already, including the mandatory reporting.
Yes, on a
Okay.
thumb drive.
On the Sun Drive. Okay, thank you. On the drive.
Yes.
Thank you.
Diana?
Diana? Yeah. Diana, you have your hand raised. Do you mean to ask a question? Doesn't seem like it. Okay, any other questions? There's a, we haven't answered this question, right? If the time we set to pick up the materials has changed, who should we let know? Tiff, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have dropped my information in the chat again, tiff.lee@sfgov.org.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, we expect to see you all tomorrow, but of course, if you need to change the time for tomorrow, certainly email Tiff. All right. I think this concludes our training. Again, thank you so much, everyone. We are really looking forward to just being partners with you as we go through the selection cycle and just delivering all this important information to our residents and increasing voter registration rates and voter participation in the city. So again, thank you all very much and good luck to all of us. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.